Hello and welcome to another edition of Problematic Women, a show that showcases strong conservative women, current events, and the hypocrisy of so-called feminists. My name is Kelsey Harkness, and I am a reporter here with the Daily Signal.
And I'm Bree Payton, staff writer at The Federalist and friend of the Daily Signal.
Today we have an exciting lineup for you. We really have tried so hard to get away from covering Hillary Clinton, promising we're not going to do it again. But similar to how we can't covering her, she just can't stop talking.
She forces us.
So we have quite an interesting segment on Hillary Clinton's take on the media to talk about. We'll also play Real or Fake News, where during this edition we're going to have Bree guess whether headlines are real or fake. And of course, at the end of our show, we will crown our Problematic Woman of the Week, which this week might surprise you.
It definitely will. Okay, so up first, Hillary Clinton continues her What Happened tour to promote her book that is literally entitled What Happened. And we have a clip to play for you from a recent interview that she did with the podcast Pod Save America. So let's take a listen, and then we'll talk about it.
And I think we are facing a couple of very difficult obstacles. First, the other side has dedicated propaganda channels. That's what I call Fox News.
Right.
It has outlets like Breitbart and, crazy InfoWars and things like that. In this particular election, it was aided and abetted by the Russians and the role that Facebook and other platforms played. We are late to that. We did not understand how a reality TV campaign would so dominate the media environment. And I confess, I was trying to do everything I could to build on the success of President Obama's campaign. I had a lot of people you guys know involved in the campaign. We were really proud of it, but boy, it was tough to break through. So I think the Democrats can do a lot, but they are still going to face a very difficult media environment. And we've got to figure out how we're going to break through. I mean, obviously, more podcasts, more other ways of communicating so voices can be heard and real positions can be understood is part of it, but we're still at a disadvantage.
So, Bree, this was kind of mind-boggling to me. I was listening to this podcast on my way home from work, and I feel like on both sides, it's kind of known that the media is biased against conservatives. I mean, after the election, they sort of promised that, hey, maybe we're not listening to half the country and we're not understanding them, and maybe we should give them a better voice. And then to hear Hillary Clinton, who has control of the mainstream media. She has Vice, she has Vox, she has Slate, she has every women's magazine that we talk about that issue so much on this show. To hear her complain that she thinks she was treated unfairly in the media was just unbelievable.
Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, how many pantsuit think pieces did we have to suffer through all throughout the election, right? And every single poll that came out leading up to the election, with the exception of Nate Silvers' poll, predicted that Hillary Clinton was going to win, right? I mean, she really did have everything going for her. And I also think an interesting line in that exchange that she brought up is the fact that a lot of the mainstream media, was filming just empty podiums at Donald Trump rallies, right? And I think that hits to another criticism that conservatives often have, which is, okay, dedicating an equal amount of time isn't what objectivity is, right? It's like your tone also and how you cover it, and it's the context with which you put things in. Sure, maybe they dedicated an equal amount of time, but a lot of that time was empty Trump podiums, right? And then a lot of the rest of the time dedicated to covering Donald Trump was just totally bashing him and not covering anything fairly. So I think even in her criticism of the media not being fair, she reveals a lot about what's going on there. And I think a lot of conservatives would agree with her in their own frustrations of the media coverage of the election as well.
I think that's a very fair point, but I think something else that maybe Hillary Clinton failed to recognize here is that she not only had control of the narrative, at least when it came to the Democratic Party during the election. But she also basically controlled the DNC. I mean, we all saw what happened when those emails were linked about how Bernie Sanders was hardly given a fair shot at the election. And so it's just she has control of the mainstream media, and then they have so many of these outlets on the left. And she's now saying they need more money and more outlets on the left. And then she also had the DNC actively working to get her that nomination.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. She had every single advantage going for her, including the fact that her husband was a former president and that she was Secretary of State and that she had all of these other advantages that she told us about every single day on the campaign trail. So, I mean, if she can't win with all of those advantages, she was never really going to win. And a lot of the polling that we do have of people who ended up casting a vote for Donald Trump, they did so not necessarily because they were so enthusiastic about that decision, but they did so because they hated Hillary Clinton so much. I mean, she is so despised, even with every single advantage that she has. I mean, it's really quite ridiculous. And I think even the tone and what she has said in her book that has come out also is really... I mean, this is why she lost. This is why no one likes her. And she's the only one who doesn't get it, you know?
Well, moving on, something that Hillary Clinton should probably think about doing. I want to get your take really quickly on another first lady, since Hillary Clinton was also a former first lady. Melania Trump. She gave a huge speech at the UN this week about anti-bullying.
Yes.
And there was some strong reaction to this, which I can understand some of the criticism that you're giving a speech about anti-bullying and you're choosing to make this your platform as a first lady, and yet your husband does quite a bit of bullying. So the critique is, if you can't even get your husband to stop bullying people, how are you going to get the entire country or maybe even the entire world?
Yeah, and I think that that's a fair criticism, but I think that that also underestimates Melania a little bit. I think she is the master of trolling. I think her numerous fashion trolls have been delicious and wonderful, and her numerous decisions to wear pantsuits at different opportunities, you know, like at different debates or during the election night, and even at the UN, as we talked about a second ago. You know, I think all of these decisions are masterful, and I think she is way smarter than everyone gives her credit for. But also, maybe she is ribbing her husband a little bit publicly over this too, right? I mean,
which you would think the feminist would actually love and give her credit for, but of course they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, let's play some real or fake news. If this is your first time joining us on the show, Problematic Women, this is a segment where I'm going to read some headlines and Bree is going to guess whether they are real or fake. We definitely encourage you to play along and see if you can beat her. All right. First headline: progressives criticize Jesus for not being very Christ-like.
I'm going to say this is true. Yeah, this sounds like something they would say.
So this one's actually fake.
Oh, okay.
Threw you for a curveball on our first one.
Yeah.
Hopefully some other people got it right.
Yeah.
Because we did show some ridiculous religious headlines that were real last week. I encourage you to look back at that show if you didn't see it. All right, next headline. Poll: 19% of students endorse violence to prevent speakers.
Okay, I did read a poll yesterday about this. I think... I can't remember exactly. There is a number of students that do endorse it, but I thought what was interesting in this poll, I think Business Insider published it if I'm remembering it correctly, but there's a huge gender discrepancy between male and female college students. I think like only 9% of women think it's okay, but then like 30% of men think it's okay. So I'm going to say that this is true because it sounds like it was in the middle of what I remember.
So you're right. This is true. So this was an article on Campus Reform, but this was actually a Brookings Institute poll that was reported on very widely. 1 in 5 undergrads actually think it's okay to use violence, and then against speakers they don't like. And then another interesting tidbit that was uncovered in that poll is that over half of students think it's okay to shout down speakers they disagree with. So we've seen this with Ben Shapiro and a bunch of conservative speakers who go to campus. Well, maybe some students now think violence might not be okay, but they are okay stopping that person from speaking simply by shouting them down.
Yeah, and also in these results too, there was a pretty big gender discrepancy between men and women also. Women overwhelmingly thought it wasn't okay to shout and protest against speakers. But then in another question, women also thought that hate speech was not like included in free speech, right? So I just think the way that women think about this issue is interesting.
Well, that's really interesting that you say that, because I thought men and women were the same. Okay, next headline. DC, I was obviously joking. We at least on this show notice the differences. DC Health Department cracks down on dogs on bar and restaurant patios.
I hope this is not true, so I'm going to say fake.
Unfortunately, this is real. No. It was published in the Washingtonian. And I actually I thought this was so funny. So this is a big deal in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of dog owners here who like to bring their dogs out on patios and grab a beer
as they
after
should.
Work. Exactly.
Yeah.
I might be one of them. And it's really one of the owners of one of the restaurants who has one of these patios. This isn't bringing a dog inside the restaurant. This is an outdoor patio. And the owner said it's very disappointing because everyone loves bringing their dogs out to the patio. There are rats, there are possums, there are raccoons and squirrels and pigeons that are all over patios in Washington, D.C. But having a well taken care of, loved, and vaccinated animal on a leash is not okay.
Yeah, that's completely ridiculous.
I couldn't say it any better than that. So hopefully they will change that, because we all, need our dogs as drinking buddies.
Yeah, completely. Also, I don't have a dog, but I like seeing other people's dogs.
All right. Next headline. Protest plan in Austin for not enough gender diversity in football.
I'm going to say true, but I've been doing really bad, so I'm like second guessing myself, but I'll say true.
You are not on your game today. That is fake. We made that one up. All right, our next headline. A woman screams at a veteran for bringing a service dog into a restaurant. It's nasty, she said.
I hope this is fake, but I'm going to guess true.
This is true.
Oh
it's from Fox News, and we have a clip.
I keep my pants to myself. I'm going to push it just like I did. There's nothing you can do about it. It's nothing. I'm leaving because the food is nasty and there's a dog. So what? What do you want to do about it? Nothing.
He's alive because he fought for our country.
Congratulations! Congrats! So did my husband's dad. My husband's dad did too. What's your point?
Because he's alive.
My husband's dad fought for the so did he. What's your point?
He has a
so
dog.
what? It's still nasty to me. I don't care.
No, it's not.
It's nasty to me. You can't change.
What do you recommend?
You can't change my goddamn opinion.
So
I don't care. It should be a separate section for a animal. Well, right there.
Well, that's awful. I can't believe that that's real.
All right. I think this is our last real or fake headline of the day, so let's see if you can get this one right. Students offered extra credit to determine their level of white privilege.
This sounds true. This is completely something that would happen on a college campus. I'm going to say true.
You are right. And guess what? I have the white privilege quiz right here.
No.
So this is from a sociology class at San Diego State University, where students would earn extra credit if they participate in this quiz. I wanted to give you the whole quiz, but it is so long, I just have to pull out a few questions. So let's see how much white privilege Bree has.
Okay, I'm Hispanic, but let's play.
I can arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time.
I've honestly never thought of this. Probably, I guess. I mean, I don't have my Hispanic friends on a specific speed dial, but sure, yeah.
What a strange question.
Yeah.
I am not made acutely aware that my shape, bearing, or body odor will be taken as a reflection on my race.
No.
White privilege.
Yeah.
I can be late to a meeting without having the lateness reflect on my race.
I mean, I think when you're late, you're just late, right?
Well, apparently it's a race issue.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, last one. I am never asked to speak for all of the people of my racial group.
No. Yeah.
I think that's really interesting, because this whole white privilege, really is pitting racial tensions against each other.
Yeah.
And so often I think conservative voices in the African American community are sort of ignored, undermined, or shut down.
Totally.
But I know working at a conservative organization, there are a lot of African American conservatives. So I actually question the premise of that whole question here, along with this whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, with the African American Museum here in Washington, D.C., the purposeful exclusion of Clarence Thomas, I think, is another glaring example of what you just talked about.
All right. Well, thank you all for playing along. Our next segment, we will be crowning our problematic woman of the week. Bree, take it away.
Okay. So usually we tend to pick a conservative woman who is being problematic in the minds of liberal feminists. But today our choice is a little bit counterintuitive. Our problematic woman of the week is Nancy Pelosi, and she wins the honor because she was being interrupted by liberal protesters for not going far enough on the DREAM Act or on DACA. Let's roll the clip.
As we fight the fight, it's clear, you don't want any answers. Is it clear?
Okay, so that was a lot of mayhem going on, a lot of yelling, and Nancy Pelosi ultimately did just end up leaving the podium because it was just so chaotic at that event. And I think that this whole controversy is really quite interesting because Nancy Pelosi is someone who does often, I mean, she was there at an event and had a panel of dreamers behind her to highlight the plight of their own story, and how sad, their situation is. And she's been pushing the DREAM Act and pushing DACA and pushing this deal, with Donald Trump in order to keep it in place and keep protections for those individuals. But she's somehow, not good enough, and liberal protesters are there and they're angry. I think that this paradigm of these two factions of the Democratic base clashing with one another, right? Like you have your establishment, who we think super liberal Nancy Pelosi, and then even more liberal leftists who, think she's not extreme enough. What do you think about those two intersections of the Democratic base colliding?
It's really interesting to see Nancy Pelosi be problematic in her own party, and
while defending liberal things.
Exactly, and I actually think it kind of raises this divide in the Democratic Party that I think is underplayed in a lot of ways, and that is sort of the Bernie Sanders. I mean, if you can really call him liberal, but very far left voters, and then more of the Hillary Clinton type voters. Those two groups do not agree, and I think that was a really perfect example.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think another perfect example of this, too, is how the drama has been played out over Bernie Sanders' introduction of a single-payer health system, and how I think it's something like 62% of Democrats think that this is a good idea. I mean, it's a growing faction within their base that they're going to have to reconcile with. Yeah, and I believe that coming up, we have a special video for you talking about problematic women and being problematic. Kelsey, take it away.
Yes, so we always like to leave you with some sort of fun and lighthearted video at the end of our show, Problematic Women. And this week, I had the opportunity to catch up with Karen Agnes. She is the founder of the Network of Enlightened Women, which is a group that really encourages conservative women on college campuses to speak up and get involved. She has a new campaign that she just launched. She's Conservative, where she's having these college students wear these t-shirts on campus, which requires a lot of bravery these days, we all know. So I had the opportunity to catch up with Karen and two college students who are involved in this campaign. These students are real-life problematic women, and I think you will enjoy hearing from them. So we're going to show you that clip, and I'm going to sign off. My name is Kelsey Harkness. You can follow my work on Twitter at Kelsey J. Harkness.
And I'm Bree Payton, staff writer at The Federalist. You can follow me on Twitter at Bree_Payton and read all of my work at thefederalist.com.
Today I'm here with Karen Agnes Lips, founder of the Network of Enlightened Women. Karen, thank you so much for joining us. You have quite an exciting campaign that you just launched called She's Conservative. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. So this is our annual campaign that highlights conservative women around the country. It's time for us to shatter stereotypes about what it means to be conservative today and who all makes up the conservative movement. So as part of this campaign, we feature college women wearing shirts that say this is what a conservative looks like and encourage them to post with the hashtag She's Conservative.
So part of the reason that I know you launched this campaign is because being conservative comes with a lot of stereotypes. I'll say being conservative these days is certainly problematic, particularly if you are a woman. And so we actually have some real life problematic women here with us today who are on college campuses daring to wear shirts that say this is what a conservative looks like. So could you introduce yourselves and tell us what it's like being a conservative, problematic woman on campus?
I'm Elise Stevick. I go to American University and I am a sophomore. I think that being a problematic woman on college campuses, I think it's really empowering, and I think that it gives me the confidence and the strength because I'm not like everyone else.
Hi, my name is Grace Watson and I'm a sophomore at George Washington University. For me, being a problematic woman just kind of connected me to at least to the right group of people for me, and helped me find women who wanted to empower me and wanted to hear my views, and I'm really happy to be a part of this group.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. I actually have one of these t-shirts. I can't wait to tweet it out. I live in the District of Columbia, which we all know is extremely liberal, and so I'm pretty excited to kind of go around and troll people wearing my shirt. I'm expecting some interesting looks, maybe reactions. I'll have to keep everyone updated on that. But can you both give us an idea of what it's like even just wearing a shirt like this around DC or on your college campuses?
Yes, even this morning on my way, the people on the metro with me would give me glares, would give me stares. Sometimes I would get a smile, but especially on college campus, it's definitely glares.
Yeah, she kind of hit the nail spot on that one. It's a lot of people just looking at you and kind of confused why you would almost identify yourself in that way, but there are the rare instances where people look at it and they're proud, and they maybe even go home and say that you're a leader and someone they hope one day they can be as brave and join the same cause.
They must wonder why you dare to put this target on your back and wearing that shirt. But good for you for having the confidence to put yourself out there. I'm curious, what do you think of this whole feminist narratives, particularly coming from female writers, women's magazines, that suggest that you can't be a feminist and be pro-woman and also be conservative?
I would say they are completely wrong. I think that being a conservative woman, you can still be a feminist, you can still believe in women's issues, you can still believe that women are the greatest, and I think that She's Conservative campaign really shows that, and shows that you can still be feminist and be a conservative.
Yeah, I kind of think news serves as the exception to that idea, because it's a group of women where we all want to see each other do better and we all stand for the empowerment of each other. So I really don't think it makes sense that you say that all conservative groups aren't for the empowerment of women.
Great. Well, thank you both for joining us. Karen, I'm curious, is there anything else you have to add about this campaign for all the problematic young conservative women out there? What advice might you have for them?
For all those conservative women out there, I'd encourage them to go to our website, shesconservative.com, and they'll have a chance to win a $1,000 scholarship just by submitting a photo and writing an essay about why they are proud and conservative. And just like these women here, we really find that it's important for them to speak out and stand up, and it encourages a lot of other women to do so. And so that's what we're excited about with this campaign.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. I know it's not easy to be a conservative, problematic woman on campus these days, so we appreciate you being here, joining us, and giving us some insight into what that is like. Thank you all.